So it's cold and it's winter and there's nothing to film, so therefore we must be at Sandringham and something must be going on, because actually if I get the cameraman to point in, well actually that direction, you can see there's plenty of media here, a couple of tents, and you know why we're here, because we're talking about Harry and Meghan and it's been called a crisis summit, it's been called a urgent emergency family meeting, lots of words for it, but right now as we speak here in Sandringham, the Queen is meeting with Prince Harry. Meghan's dialing in from Canada. Prince Charles is in the room and so is Prince William. So we should talk about it, shouldn't we? There's been a lot going on. Lizzie's with me, Lizzie Robinson, producer in our bureau, and we'll be talking to various members and colleagues as you would expect. Whoa, not the start to the year that we all thought we might be having.
No, definitely not a quiet start to 2020. It's been quite a dramatic 5 days, hasn't it?
Yes, and I mean, I don't know whether we should start at the beginning or talk about where we are now. Let's talk about Sandringham. So they're in the room, they've got a bit of paper, and they've got to make some decisions.
Yeah, they've got some big decisions to make, haven't they? About whether Harry and Meghan will be able to keep their titles, how their new working lives will work, split between working in the royal family but also out of it.
Half in, half out.
Half in, half out.
Not a model that anyone's done before.
No, how they'll be funded, how their security will look, what this means for the taxpayer, what the taxpayer will get for their money. Do
they stay in Frogmore Cottage or do they leave? Can they keep staying there if they're not going to be in Britain for half the year? Where does Archie go to school? What's their constitutional position? What happens to Harry's military titles?
Yeah, there's a lot of complex issues to talk through, and the Queen has said that she wants this to be resolved, or at least progress to be made within days, not weeks. So there's a lot for them to decide.
And that surprised me last week when they said that the Queen wanted some decisions, to use the Buckingham Palace phrase, at pace. I mean, I think we're all quite surprised, because this is a family or an institution that doesn't really like acting or responding to events. They like to do things slowly and in their own time.
Yeah, I think they've also very much aware that this is a complex matter, though, that although that things have to move at pace, it's going to take there'll be a period of transition where this takes a while to work through the intricacies.
All right. I've got a question. I think we are going to get, I think today we're going to get some sort of holding statement to say, a bit like Brexit talks, I suppose. We made good progress. Yes, well, we made good progress, but the talks are complex and there's still many things to resolve. And yet, I think tomorrow we'll probably get some kind of, framework, outline, something like that. Now that is very quick for the royal family, given that Harry and Meghan dropped this bombshell as they did on Wednesday evening at 6:34 or whatever time it was.
A bombshell not just for us but also for the royal family. And I think there's been a huge move on Buckingham Palace's position in the last 5 days. The first statement they put out was that this is, discussions are at an early stage, it's going to take a while to work through, and we've moved in the last few days to actually this needs to be sorted out very quickly.
And I thought there was a really significant change between Harry and Meghan dropping this news and the family, let's be clear, were, I don't know what words to use, but shocked or angry or frustrated, something. They were really, really unhappy on Wednesday evening to say, I cannot believe you've actually dropped this on us without actually sorting everything out. We'd rather have announced this after we'd made all the decisions. And yet on Thursday they seemed to be, it was almost like they were saying, look, this isn't the pitch we want to play on, but we're on it now, so we'd better get on with it and sort it out.
And also, words like hurt and disappointment are quite rare to hear words like that from the royal family. You never really get to know how they're feeling emotionally. But they also probably became aware over those 24 hours that they didn't want this to play out publicly, and they needed to sort of put this back behind closed doors.
Because it's not in their interest, either within the UK or with the outside world looking in, for them to look completely and utterly dysfunctional, is it?
Yeah, and I think everyone was aware just how off guard they'd been caught last Wednesday, and I think there's been a push to take back some of that control over the last few days.
Okay, so let's run through what happened. So last week, Harry and Meghan got back from Canada on Monday. On Tuesday, they went to the Canadian High Commission, which is the sort of embassy, if you like, of Canada in London, to say thank you for having us. Loved it. It was really pretty. Archie, thought the scenery was amazing. Didn't Meghan say? We just wanted to thank them very publicly. I thought that was a bit odd, that they were making a very public statement of thanks for a trip that was meant to be very private.
Yeah, they'd said repeatedly that this had been a private holiday, a time away for them to have some family time, to then come back and their very first engagement of the year to be a public display of thank you for that private trip.
Yes, so they did that. That was Tuesday. Wednesday morning, the Sun newspaper in the UK says, bang, Harry and Meghan are going to move to Canada. And then I think that sort of forced everybody's hand. It was out in the open then, and I think Harry and Meghan wanted the royal family to make some decisions, and by that evening, even though the family didn't know it, by that evening they put that statement out. Yeah. And my understanding is the family had 3 or 4 minutes more notice than people like me, and that's what they were angry about.
Yeah, and shocked. I think we were all shocked when we got that message, weren't we, when that dropped. I think no one had.
And so, I mean, I was talking to Tom Bradby, our colleague, about this, at the weekend. They went from that, as he refers to it, the pressure valve was the documentary that they made. And they wanted to release some pressure, let everyone know, just actually didn't have to scrape much behind further down from the surface to know that things weren't going very well. And they've gone from that to a time in Canada where they had a lot of time to think, and Meghan wrote what's been called a manifesto on their private Instagram page. And then to the beginning of the year to say, pretty much, guys, it's over. It didn't work out. We're off. Yeah,
I think if you remember that documentary that Tom did on the tour, you remember Meghan saying, how she felt like she was surviving, not thriving. And there was, you could feel how deeply unhappy they were. And they've obviously taken some time away and had some time to think about how they want their futures to look in the royal family or outside it.
And it'd be worth to know, what the rest of the world think about this. So, there's plenty of people we can talk to here. Let's find one. There's one coming
right now.
Kelly's from NBC. Me and Lizzie were just having a chat about the whole thing, and we were just wondering, what does the rest of the world think about this? What does it look like from the outside looking in?
I think it's difficult. I mean, from the United States perspective, I don't think people really understand how the royal family works. I don't think they
understand even less now.
Well, yeah. I mean, can't you just, pack your bags? Can't you live in the United States? What's the big deal?
Yeah.
Or live in Canada? I mean, how can it be so complicated to just, have a split shift, split job?
Yeah.
I think people are really confused by that, and they don't understand what the commitment is. And
and particularly given that Harry and Meghan say we want to be financially independent, I suppose the question in the US or maybe in Canada as well, what's the big deal?
Yeah, I think that's very much true. And, especially coming from the United States, there's a different perspective on that. It's sort of like, this very go-get-em kind of attitude where you should be able to forge your own future if you have ideas about what you want to do, a business you want to start, however you want your life to be, then, you should be able to just go forward and enact that plan if you want. But the idea, I mean, we don't have a royal family. There's no, there's no concept of being so tied to a family.
Yeah,
that
your head of state's President Trump. He gives you enough to talk about. But our head of state being the Queen, and she's got a lot of work to do in there today.
She's got a lot of work to do, and I think, for the British people who are paying for Harry and Meghan, they paid £2.4 million, that figure that was, ran on headlines everywhere. They paid £2.4 million for Frogmore, and they're wondering, I think, what are they going to get from Harry and Meghan?
Do you have the phrase in the States, or do you have a slightly different version of like having your cake and eating it?
Oh yeah. So people get that part.
And I wonder whether that's the big issue for Harry and Meghan. What might become toxic if people think, if you want out of the royal family, leave, but don't expect us to therefore pay for your security. Don't expect us to pay for your cottage, etc., etc. Do you think that point lands in the US?
I'm not sure that it does, because again, I don't think people really understand how the finances work here. And it's hard for me to get my head around it, and I've been studying it for 8 years since I started.
And I suppose no one ever says, oh, hold on, how much does Air Force One cost, or how much does it cost to have for President Trump to have his home in Florida? No, I mean, those sort of questions don't come up in the same way that they do here.
No, because he's doing a job for the American people. He's an elected president.
Yeah, whether you like him or not, he's the elected president.
Exactly. Yeah. So everybody just understands that yes, we have to pay for this. You're paying for the office.
See, it's where it gets difficult when you're not elected. When you're appointed or when you're actually only in the job because of who your mother or father is. It gets a bit difficult, doesn't it?
Right, to be born into something and to have all the trappings of this, what people see on the outside as this amazing life. I mean, come on, it's an American, some girl's dream to be a princess. It's the fairy tale.
Yeah.
And to think, well, why would anyone want to break out of that? First of all, is really confusing to people. And also, wait a minute, who pays for all this? and I think people probably think that the Queen is just independently wealthy. She has lots of property and finances, and the Queen pays for it.
And what do you think? The final question really from us is, how does Britain look to the rest of the world? Do we look, do we look what, unwelcoming? Do we look a bit, I don't know, do we look a bit, I mean, the accusation is racist, I mean, or do we look like we don't want outsiders in the royal family? What is it?
I'm not sure if it goes that far.
Right.
I think people, I don't want to generalize for every American, but I think people probably figure, well, it sounds like a family fight. It sounds like something that would happen at Thanksgiving or Christmas. And, unfortunately, it's a very public family, probably the most famous family in the world. Yeah, it happens to a lot of families.
Well, you're part of the media family that's here at the moment, so thank you so much for being with us. It was lovely to get your take. Right, the man coming over, and he's wearing some wellies. Max, come on in, Lizzie. Your footwear is much better than mine, actually. I'm not dressed for this.
Wet feet on these jobs.
So yeah. Do you want to, Dan? Do you want to show?
Windproof tweed.
See, I packed for a weekend in the office, not thinking I'd be in Sandringham. Max packed for being in Sandringham. I'm definitely layered up. If I had another layer, I would put it on, but I don't. Blimey.
Yeah.
Blimey. I mean, we can't even guess what's going on in the meeting there. So I suppose for me the question is, this was always going to come at some point. It always felt like this tension was going to lead to something. And maybe I just didn't think it would happen this quickly.
Well, I think we've been aware probably earlier than others about the rift, which has grown. Probably it's bigger than we even thought, though, isn't it? But I think that it's been a surprise to the wider world that this has blown up it feels quite sudden, whereas we know it hasn't been that sudden.
Yes, yeah.
It was the line that was crossed with the Queen, though. I think that for my audience, anyway, that really sort of shocked people, actually, because I think people do agree, that they've been under a lot of pressure, and there's a lot of sympathy for that, and it's fair enough if they want to leave and step back or whatever they're doing, but it's just that it felt like disrespect for the Queen. Who knows what really happened.
I think we all knew how deeply unhappy they were, and how, over the past year they've been thinking about their role in the family and how they want that to be going forward. But I think you're right, it was that not having had those conversations with the Queen and Prince Charles and just announcing it publicly to us.
If the royal family could do this again, I suspect they would say, I tell you what, let's try and have all these meetings as quietly as possible. Let's resolve what's going to happen. Let's work out your titles and your money and your house and your tax status in Canada, who knows what else, and then let's tell the rest of the world. This is like turned it on its head for the royal family, which is why they were so shocked on Wednesday.
But maybe the story isn't there yet. The story is that they don't agree something and there's an impasse. And then what happens?
Exactly. I think the other big shock was that Meghan came back to the UK for a few days, and then they made this bombshell statement, and she was gone again. Back to Archie.
Okay,
left in Canada.
Let's talk about that. It sounds like the man with the megaphone's back again as well. We'll inform you about the man with the megaphone. He's been coming around periodically, making a noise, as you can probably hear. What we were going to talk about, because he's already put me off. Meghan in Canada. Now, here we go. Here's a question. Do you think she's going to come back, or do you think she's already checked out of the UK?
Well, I don't know. I mean, you probably had the same conversations as me, but last week it was going to be a short visit back. Could be a few days back this week, and now we're not guiding on when she's coming back.
Yeah, and also taking the dogs. I mean, is it? I mean, look, let's not make like the situation is very serious, but if in a divorce someone's taken the dogs and the kids and taken them abroad, kind of sort of suggests that she's had enough, doesn't it?
And what we're not thinking about enough is probably the dynamic, the internal discussion between the Sussexes as well. He's clearly very keen to keep some sort of public role, and it does appear that she's less keen to keep a public role. So that's a real difficulty between the two.
She doesn't need to, I suppose, does she? I mean, whereas I think he feels duty bound. I was talking to Tom Bradby, our colleague, about this at the weekend. He says, look, I don't know, he presents news at 10 every so often. Yeah. I said we should get him on. We'll do that sometime.
Do your job.
Very well, actually. And he was saying, it was literally like Harry. He loves this country. He values his military titles. For example, he's the Captain General of the Royal Marines. All that stuff means a lot to him.
From his grandfather.
Yeah, exactly. He fought in Afghanistan for the Brits. But the Commander-in-Chief, the Queen, didn't tell her about what he wanted to do. But if he loved his country, but Meghan's got no connection, and why should she have a connection here? That's always going to be a difficult thing to resolve.
The other big question is, I would have thought around the table is, of course, I think they've all thought about, cashing in on the royal brand, which is one of the most valuable brands in the world.
Sarah, don't go away. Yeah, but Karen, finish your sentence. Come in, Sarah. Yeah.
I spoke to Sarah earlier on.
Come and join this, because actually we thought now we've had the view from America. We're just doing a very quick discussion for our Royal Rota.
Yes.
You'll have to borrow Lizzie's microphone to get
to
very, very close to Lizzie. We've got
that won't be a problem. I like Lizzie. Hello.
Well, there we are. So listen, how does this look in Australia? The Queen's your head of state as much as she is our head of state, after all. How does it look over there?
Chris, the appetite
This is Sarah, by the way. She's from Channel 7 in the US.
in Australia.
This is Sarah, by the way. She's from Channel 7 in Australia.
As I said this morning, the appetite in Australia at the moment for this story is just insatiable. It's been leading the news in Sydney multiple nights since it broke. I just think everyone is so equally intrigued.
Yeah, get a bit closer to Lizzie. I'm worried about your microphone, so I'm going to pick it up.
closer.
We need to hug each other. It's fine.
Right.
And everyone's
cold as
intrigued.
well.
Everyone wants
Like
this story, and I must tell you, keep yourself warm. It's really cold here. But constitutionally, do you care? We were talking to Kelly from NBC. She was saying, the Americans don't really get the money thing and the constitution thing. Is that point landing back in Australia?
I don't think so. And again, we had this chat this morning. Harry spent that gap year in Australia. We met on the tour. There's obviously this great love for him, especially over there, because he has been over so many times. And I think the sentiment coming out of there is that they do have a bit of empathy, almost sympathy for his situation, but they don't know why it's reached this point. And I don't think there's as much of the anger or the speculation as there is here from taxpayers who obviously have that side of concern as well.
Yes, they're not paying the fees, are they? So they don't necessarily care. A few people have said this to me recently, and I'll ask each of you about this. Is it just a bit sad? Sad that they couldn't come to an agreement, sad that Meghan's decided that Britain wasn't for her, sad that the royal family couldn't welcome in an outsider, or maybe they did welcome in but just couldn't make it work.
Yeah, I personally think so. Having been on that tour with you guys in Australia and New Zealand, in Tonga, when they were lining the streets and everyone, there was that sense of joy still then, and it just seems like that has completely dissipated, and it is sad.
Yeah.
And I think it's really sad for the Queen, a 93-year-old woman that's dedicated her whole life to kind of her work and this country, to have seen this played out publicly like this. I think that's what's really sad.
And a 93-year-old woman who's had a lot to deal with her family over the last 6 or 7 weeks. I mean, we haven't mentioned Prince Andrew, and plenty of people say on social media, by the way, why are you giving this so much coverage? The Prince Andrew story was much more serious in many respects.
Had that, and it's like we did a lot on Prince Andrew as well.
So did we.
I understand that whole thing. That's kind of an anti-media narrative.
Yeah, of course.
But I think that she keeps trying to step back, doesn't she? But having to step in to really bang heads together in these situations. Prince Andrew's one. Here's another one. I think that it's really hard for her. I think the sadness, though, is the brothers falling out, because we've all seen how close they were. They were working as a unit, and they were going to be a co-monarchy at one point, and that's broken down, but I'm sure they'll fix it at some point.
And I think a lot of people would not disagree with that. Thank you for the view from your side of the world, and for your, you don't have a world, you're international.
I'm a bit
you're
like
international.
the Sussexes, I have a hybrid role.
CNN is everywhere. Thank you, Max, Sarah, thank you very much. So, we've covered some of the many issues, tried to touch on why is it important, is it a crisis when you compare what's happening in the Middle East at the moment, or when you consider the fires in Australia and all the rest of it. But you just heard from Australian TV themselves, this is what's been leading their news bulletins, not the fires in their own country. It's getting dark here soon, so you won't be able to see me, so it's probably a good point to wrap up, and we'll continue this conversation, and hopefully we think in the next short time get some decisions, and we will of course share them with you as soon as we've got them.